Welcome to another STAEDTLER art session with Riaan. In this session I will show you how to draw fabrics. Fabrics have certain characteristics and follow the rules of gravity. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me or use the chat box during the live session. Let's unfold the secrets behind fabrics.
In this session, Riaan will be using the STAEDTLER double-ended fiber tip pens. Let us draw a folded cloth. It is always good to go back to the basic principles. For this cloth, we will be using cubes to lay out the basic shapes. If you are unsure how to draw cubes in perspective, please watch the session on basic forms. Once you have the basics of the cloth, you can start adding the folds. Now we use one of the STAEDTLER double-ended fiber tips to shade the cloth. Use a light marker to start the shading and progressively use darker markers for the darker areas. Imagine picking up a cloth by pinching the middle. Alternatively, you can take a photo of your hand doing it. Try and draw a lot of different materials. You will learn a lot by observing what material does what under various circumstances. Once your pencil drawing is done, use a putty eraser to lighten the drawing. Pick 3 of the same color but with different intensities. Begin with the lightest of the 3 and start shading the cloth. Now we will start shading the medium tones. It's time to deepen the dark tones with the darkest marker. Use the pigment liner to enhance some of the finer detail. We will take a look at a cloth that has been poked. Let's imagine that you are pressing down into a cloth on a soft surface. The pinching will happen in the middle. This will create arrows towards the middle. It is best to start with a pencil just to get the guidelines correct. Once you are happy with the drawing, soften the pencil using a putty rubber. Now for the fun part. We will use Staedtler's double-ended fiber tip markers. You can use whatever color you fancy, but try to match the shade colors. In this part of the session, we will stick to grays and black. Use the lighter shade to fill in most of the mid-tones and light shades. Pay attention to where the shades are on the cloth. It is always a good idea to make use of references. Riaan used his cell phone to take reference photos for the session. Keep it light and relaxed. This is an exercise to understand cloth. It doesn't need to be perfect. The markers allow you to make thin and broad strokes. Now it's time to use a darker color marker. Use a marker in the same color range but medium dark. When you start adding the darker tones, make sure not to cover too much of the light tones you have already created. Use hatching to create lighter tones where needed. Not everything needs to be solidly shaded. In the last step, use the darkest color for the very dark areas in the cloth. Using STAEDTLER's pigment liners, we can add more fine detail to the cloth. Seeing that art is all about individual expression, don't be afraid to experiment while doing exercises like these. This is where you will find your own style. In this part, we will look at cloth-forming cylinders, like the bottom of curtains. Draw two lines in perspective. Draw ovals for each of the folds at the bottom of the curtain. Offset them front and back. Now connect the circles with a curvy line. Draw the vertical lines and make sure to draw it on the far side of the folds and where it overlaps on the near side. Use a kneadable eraser to lighten the drawing before we start using the markers. Like before, use the lightest color and shade the lightest shadow areas. You can use the vertical lines for the curtains, but feel free to use any technique you find most comfortable. It's now time to add the medium tones. Use a similar color but slightly darker for the next step. Use the darkest marker of the same color and add the deepest shades. You can always go back and add more of the light and medium shades. We use the pigment liner again to add more line work to the drawing. We hope you enjoyed this session. Please join us in the next session where we use our knowledge we gained today to draw clothes on humans.